cozy friends, and welcome to another cozy knitting and reading vlog. If you are new here, my name is Morgan and I like to unravel my anxious mind with my cozy hobbies, mostly reading and knitting. And in this video, my family and I are going to be taking a trip from Canberra, Australia, where we're currently living abroad. Well, if you're new here, further context, my husband got a job here, so we are living abroad in Australia for at least a couple of years. And we are in Canberra, Australia, which is the only kind of inland city in Australia. So we're going to be traveling to the coast. We're going to drive along the Great Ocean Road down in Victoria. It's going to be so beautiful. So I want to take you along that journey. And I'm of course also bringing along some knitting projects and a new book that I'm very excited to read. I'm going to try to run through them really quickly because we've been packing all day and we're headed out in the morning, and my husband's only outside with my son for a few moments. But the book I'm going to be taking is from my favorite author. She has just released a new book and I can't wait to pick it up. I actually just started it. I'm only a few pages in, but it is A Sea of Unspoken Things by Adrienne Young. This one is about a sister who has lost her twin brother and is going through the grieving process of missing that other half of her, and I think digging up the past to kind of figure out and heal. And I think it'll be a beautiful read for the coastal trip because obviously sea is in the title. And as far as knitting projects go, I already shared with you in the podcast what I'm going to be trying to knit on. My current fixation knit is my Dagmar pullover. This one is not super road trip friendly because it's so many cables, and I do get car sick if I'm looking down at my knitting a lot. So my plan with this one is to work on it when we're at the cabin or the cottage. It's like a coastal cottage. It's gonna be so cute. There's farm animals there. I'm so excited. But yeah, I'm so close to joining this in the round. I have joined the front panel flat and I can't wait to put the collar on, but that's not going to happen this week because I'm not gonna try to figure all that out on the go. But I can't wait to work on this more. So it's definitely coming with, even if I don't get to work on it much. I do hope I get it joined in the round this week though, and I am also bringing my caramel sweater, also by petiteknit. There is a theme here. Her designs are just so classic, and as any beginner knitter does, you just kind of want to get some of those classics in your wardrobe. I am on the sleeve of the caramel. I have completed the body as you saw in the podcast and picked up stitches for the sleeve earlier this week. I only did that a couple days ago, so I'll insert that footage after this. But my hope is to have this stockinette project to work on in the car ride and not have to really pay attention too much besides doing the decreases down the sleeves. I really enjoy some mindless knitting, and I've enjoyed working on this project. I really love the yarn. It is knitpicks Gloss DK, which is a merino and silk combination. It's just so nice to work with. And if I didn't say, I am knitting this in Simply Wool Worsted by Knitpicks. I am a huge fan of Knitpicks yarn, and in the color Winnie. But I've got some really good projects, and on the way back from the Great Ocean Road, we're actually going to see Bendigo Woolen Mills, which I love to use their yarns, and I've already built a little bit of a collection of their yarns, but I really am looking forward to seeing it in person and getting to see all of the colorways and either add some to my wish list or potentially grab a few balls of yarn while we are there as a special keepsake. Don't forget to let me know down in the comments what you are working on while watching or what you have been reading lately. And without any further ado, let's unravel.
When my husband and I decided to say yes and accept this job opportunity that would move us across the world, we knew we would want to see as much as possible in whatever amount of time we had here. We've lived here for about 11 months now and are quite settled in and are so ready to explore more. We live in the capital city of Canberra, Australia, about 3 hours from Sydney and 7 hours to Melbourne. We'd love to see all 6 states while we are here, and so far we've been to the coast of New South Wales, and during this trip we'll be seeing the Great Ocean Road in Victoria, Australia. The Great Ocean Road is a famous scenic drive of 240 kilometers along the southeastern coast of Australia. For context, if you are also American, that's about 150 miles. The road is literally carved along the rocky coast with views of the Southern Ocean as far as the eye can see. I really never thought I'd get to see Australia, much less experience life here. I think some of the first YouTube videos I ever watched were of Hannah Mermaid videos on YouTube. She's an Australian freediver and professional mermaid that swims with whale sharks and explores shipwrecks off the coast of Australia. I wanted to be her when I grew up. Then as a teenager, I was obsessed with 5 Seconds of Summer, an Australian band that opened for One Direction tours. It's so cool that life has led me here to get to fully appreciate this beautiful and vast continent. The drive from Canberra to the Great Ocean Road is about 9 hours, and with a toddler in the car, it's always best to split the travel up. So on travel day 1, we are driving from Canberra to Kinglake National Park. About 3 hours into the drive, we stopped for a quick lunch break and we ended up finding a cute burger joint in Wodonga. It was so good that we ended up stopping there again on our drive home. But right back onto the road, my son was doing really well on this travel day and I got to do a lot of knitting. I actually reached the cuff of the sleeve on my caramel sweater, and he's at that perfect age where he's not quite potty trained yet, so we don't have to stop every time he has to use the restroom, but he's old enough that he's able to eat snacks versus needing to stop to nurse. We made it to the first Airbnb in Kinglake and had a very cozy evening. We explored the DVD collections they had there and made mochas. There was actually a beautiful garden at this Airbnb, and they harvest the fruits to make homemade jams that they had available for sale inside the Airbnb. And they provided samples of their homemade jam that we could try on bread from a local bakery that they provided for us. It was such a nice place, and honestly, I wish we could have stayed there longer. We got to play with the goats outside in the morning, even though it was unexpectedly really cold for the Australian summer. February is supposed to be one of the hottest months here, but it turned out to be quite chilly. Before hitting the road again, we stopped at a park in Kinglake to make sure my son could get all of his energy out. And then we would be back on the road towards the Great Ocean Road. I did much less knitting this day because from here on we were on really bendy and windy and windy mountain coastal roads, but the views were so amazing, so I just soaked that up along the way. It's so cool that throughout this trip we were able to see so many types of landscapes. We drove through outback desert, mountains, coasts, forests, rainforests, and along cliffs as well. As an American exploring here, it often feels so familiar to other places we've been that we forget we are on the other side of the world, if not for driving on the other side of the road. We made it to our Airbnb on the Great Ocean Road in Sugarloaf. It had cows and alpacas on the paddock, and it was so cool to get to see and pet them. We spent some time getting settled into the cabin and relaxing, having a cup of tea, before we headed into town to grab a bite to eat. I didn't grab any clips of it, but we ate pizza outside of a beautiful Italian restaurant, and then we were able to enjoy the sunset view from our cottage. Like I said, in Victoria, it was actually pretty chilly despite it being summer here right now. It was between 13 and 20 degrees Celsius, which is 55 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit. But the sea breeze really let me get a lot of wear out of my salty day sweater while we were there. Our goal for our first day on the Great Ocean Road was to get to spend some time relaxing on the beach. The morning tide was really low, so we got to look at so many beautiful seashells on the rock pools, and it was really special to spend time walking on the rocks that spend most of their days underwater. When I packed my Salty Days sweater, I really didn't think I'd get any wear out of it because it's summer here and it has been very hot in Canberra, but I actually really needed it and I wore it nearly every day that we were there. Thankfully, my son had so much fun on the beach this time. If you've been around a while, you know he did not enjoy our time on the beach in New South Wales, unfortunately. But this time he was really excited for it, and we made sure to bring things that would help him not get as overstimulated in the sun. We set up a beach tent, made sure he wore his sunglasses and beach hat, and he actually played with his toys in the sand this time, which was so nice. After the beach, we explored Apollo Bay for brunch and then played at the park before heading back to the cottage for my son's nap. I worked on my Dagmar zipper while my husband got my son down for his nap. During naps and bedtime, my husband and I have been watching the new episodes of the Love is Blind season, and I'm so glad we could do that. It was really cozy, and we have such good discussions about the couples and their communication, or lack thereof. The next day, we began the drive along the Great Ocean Road through the Otway Rainforest to the 12 Apostles. It was literally raining while we drove through the forest, which was quite eerie but very beautiful. The 12 Apostles are a landmark of massive limestone rock structures along the Great Ocean Road on the south coast of Australia. It is a very popular natural tourist attraction, and there were many people there while we were. The Apostles are seastacks, a type of coastal rock formation. Some 10 to 20 million years ago, they were part of the limestone cliffs on the mainland along the shore that we were walking on. The crashing waters and wind eventually erode the cliffs to form caves, and then they become arches that eventually collapse, leaving rock stacks up to 50 meters or 160 feet high. It's really crazy to think how long these rock structures have stood there, and you can see the many different coloring of the layers of the limestone. One of the stock landscape wallpaper photos that often shows on our TV is of the 12 Apostles. It's just surreal to get to see such a natural wonder in person and know that we've actually stood there now. We really enjoyed the walks and the views, and it was definitely worth every moment. We stopped in Port Campbell for lunch and had a very beautiful time on the beach there. The views were just so unbelievable, and on this beach we were completely alone, and it was really nice to just soak that up. The next day was meant to be another beach day, but it was quite windy and wet. We spent most of that day relaxing since the day touring the 12 Apostles was so busy. Here I'm showing that I am joined in the round on my dagmar, and I'm very excited about that. But after my son's nap, it cleared up a bit. So we went out for coffee and ended up going on a koala walk. There's a path where koalas are frequently spotted, and we were actually able to spot one with the help of some friendly Australians. The next morning, we packed up the Airbnb, and before heading out, we walked the beach one more time, and I found a few more cool seashells. This day, we were driving from the Great Ocean Road to Bendigo, which is about 3.5 hours away. It was going to be our stopping point on the drive home. We chose Bendigo as our stopping point, even though it's not really halfway, because I really wanted to visit the Bendigo woolen mills in person. I did not end up knitting at all on the drive this day because we were still on the windy roads and we were battling car sickness at this point, but like I said, it was nice to just try to soak up the views while we had them. Our Airbnb in Bendigo was literally in the middle of what felt like the desert, but it was the countryside in Australian summer. It was so dry, and the owner told us that they hadn't had precipitation in 6 weeks. She was literally the sweetest woman in the world, and she let us feed the lambs with her on the farm, as well as showing us the shearing shed and talked all about wool with me. It was so special to get to experience that. As a knitter, getting to pet sheep and actually visit the shearing shed where they have their wool sheared is so special. And nothing has ever made me want to learn how to spin more than getting to see this wool in person before it becomes yarn. And these special one-on-one experiences are really why we tend to opt for local stays versus hotels. We had a cozy evening playing outside, and I got to knit on my dagmar a little bit on the porch, and it was so very peaceful. And then the next morning was Bendigo Woolen Mills Day. I was so excited. It's an Australian wool mill, and it's really cool to get to support locally grown Australian yarn shops. Getting to see all the yarn in person was so cool, but what I wasn't expecting was the back room. They had so much discounted yarn in the back and fibers that they don't have available online, and that is where I went crazy. But then while we were still in Bendigo, we went and got brunch at a cute place named Percy and Percy and went to the park. But as you can see, as we're driving around, Bendigo was just so beautiful. It was a very lovely town that looked like it had a lot of rich history and character. We really wish we could have been here and explored a bit longer. There was a tram here that you could do a tour on, and I wish we'd gotten to do that because it would have been so fun. But before heading back to the farm, we got some ice cream at a local handmade ice cream place called Favorite Flavors. It was so cute. And once we got back to the Airbnb, I was able to really take in my bendigo haul. What you're seeing here is alpaca fiber, which they do not have available on their website. And when I saw alpaca yarn in the back room, I just started throwing everything in my cart. And I knew I couldn't leave without them because I wouldn't be able to get them later. And I was planning to do a bendigo yarn haul at the end of this video when I got home. But because I purchased so much, I'm thinking of making that its own separate video so that we can talk about all the project plans I have for that. And we got one last sunset on this trip before packing up our bags to head home the next morning.
Hi cozy friends, it's time for a bit of a trip recap and talk about everything I knit and read while we were away. So as you got to see throughout the vlog, this was literally the coziest, most beautiful vacation I could have imagined. We have, since moving here, dreamed of taking this trip, and we were also really surprised that our pit stops along the way turned out to be very special places and memories on the trip as well. I definitely thought that my bendigo yarn haul would fit into this video, but I ended up going so crazy in the back room that had fibers that weren't even available on their website. They had alpaca yarns as well as discounted yarns in the back room that I just felt like if I left without, I wouldn't be able to get again later when I'm not there in person. So even though I definitely went in not expecting to buy as much as I did, I have literally no regrets. I'm so grateful to have been able to visit in person and get to explore the back room and get so many fun yarn. I was able to see all of the colors in person. As a knitter in this space, I've definitely heard about people going to yarn mills in like Copenhagen and just all of the Scandinavian countries and finding the back rooms or the discount rooms, and I've always like been like, that's such a dream, like how can I get there, you know? But I didn't realize that places like Bendigo would have their own back room, and I was in awe. I really can't wait to share all the yarn I got with you, but I just think it would stand alone better in its own video where we can talk about all the details and my project plans. Definitely keep your eyes peeled for that next video because I will be talking about all the yarn I purchased while we were there and all of my project plans. I think one of my favorite parts of the trip was our first morning on the Great Ocean Road when we went out to the beach at low tide and we were able to look at all the rocks and find a bunch of cute seashells. So I wanted to show you some of these. This one is completely intact, which is so cool to find. And then this one is so beautiful on the inside. It's literally iridescent. And this little tiny one has a beautiful design on it. I've rinsed these like 10 times and I just still got sand on my floor going to get those. But I found this really cool spiral shell and this huge piece of sea glass, as well as this one. I'd also found this perfect little clam that was still together when I found it, but my son accidentally broke it. I mean, they're still whole pieces, but they're not together. And I also found this really cool piece that has that iridescent as well. But it was just really special to get to scour the beach together with my family and splash in the rock pools a little bit, even though it was very chilly. And that was something that took us by surprise. I don't think my husband even packed a jacket. He had one sweater and it got dirty. So he was quite chilly throughout the trip. But I got to wear the crap out of my Salty Days sweater, which was so nice because I finished it back in November and hadn't gotten any wear out of it yet. because it's summer here in Australia, but down in Victoria, I mean, it's literally one of the closest places to Antarctica besides like some places in South America and Tasmania. So literally neighbors with Antarctica. It's pretty cold down there besides the month of January. So with it already being the end of February, it was quite windy, quite chilly, but we stopped into a souvenir shop to make sure my son had a hoodie to keep him warm. We had a really great time walking around and exploring. We had such a lovely time in Bendigo as well, and I wish we'd had longer there. We are considering potentially going back for the Bendigo sheep and wool show, but I'm not sure if we'll make it because that is in only a few months and that is quite a big trip. I am hoping to go to the Canberra yarn show here soon. It's the first week of March, I believe, or the first weekend of March. I'll put the information on the screen, but I'm hoping to go to that. I'm pretty nervous, but I'd love to hear down in the comments if you're going to be going as well. Lord knows I don't need to buy any more yarn, but it would really be nice to just be surrounded by fiber folks and get to see some cool handmade local things and get to see some local makers. Now let's talk about some of the progress I made while we were away. As you saw, I got my Dagmar zipper pullover joined in the round, and I have made so much progress on it. This has really been a hyperfixation knit for me. I get so addicted to cable patterns that once I've gotten my flow with the cable repeat, I don't want to stop. I just keep going and going. And what I would do is make sure I did one of the honeycomb rounds where there were cable crossings before we'd be on the go, so that while we were out and about, I wasn't having to really do cable crossing rows. It was just only in this section of the diamond, which has become quite easy to remember and intuitive for me. So I've actually made it a few inches past the joining in the round under the arm, and it's just so beautiful. I think my next step with this one is going to be putting on the collar, which is going to be a whole new realm for me. I've done lots of collars, but never one with the double knitting that's going to be around the zipper. So that'll be very interesting to learn. I love learning new things, and this is just such a fun project. And the other project I took was my caramel sweater by petiteknit, and I think you guys saw, but I finished an entire sleeve while we were on the road. I actually did the majority of this sleeve in the first day, and I thought, oh, I didn't bring enough yarn with me because I finished that whole sleeve. But then I worked on the cuff very, very slowly because we were on those coastal roads that were so windy and windy, and we were all battling car sickness, mainly me and my son. My husband has a stomach of steel, but yeah, we were taking Dramamine and whatever we could do to get through all of the peppermint drops and everything. Here's how the cuff of the sleeve is looking, and I pretty much all but finished this before we got home, and I didn't want to try to do the bind off because I didn't remember how to do the 2x2 bind off in Italian. So I needed to get home and watch that tutorial so that I could bind off. But the whole first sleeve is complete on this, and now it just needs one more. I am hoping to finish this in February, and we have a couple days left in February for me to get to work on this second sleeve. And I think I feel quite accomplished for this finish in February because I not only finished my husband's long-standing cardigan work in progress, but I also am nearly done with this one. And I have enough yarn acquisitions from the Bendigo visit to last me the rest of the year, that's for sure. This was such a special vacation, and getting to share it in this video format in a way that we'll be able to look back on for years to come, even when we're potentially no longer living in Australia. It's just so special, and so I want to thank you so very much for watching and spending your time knitting along with me. Let me know down in the comments what you are working on while watching. I will be sitting down to film my Bendigo haul right after this one so that I can get it to you as soon as possible. Don't forget to take time to do the things that help you unravel, and I will be wishing you a very cozy week. Bye guys!